it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.
Oh, hey! Welcome to the Really Charlie Podcast. Excuse me. Oh man, I'm here with my other host, Marvin, Speller-CoachM100, and we're here to try to convince people to make mental health a priority. And I can't wait every 2 weeks to have my man on here so we can talk shop and try to just get people to aware of what's going on around them if they don't know already, and give them some branches of help so they can reach out and try to help themselves or maybe others. What's up, Marvin? How you doing?
What's up, sir? How you doing? I'm actually I'm feeling really good, man. And I had a great weekend. We celebrated our anniversary with my lovely wife.
Congratulations.
And we're around a lot of friends and family, and it was just amazing. But you know what else is amazing, Charlie? And I realized that as an individual, my accountability to myself is incredibly important. And I felt like on this trip, I had a couple of things that were unpacked for me. And man, my attitude prevails even more than ever. So that's what I'm bringing today to this podcast, and I think I bring it. I think I bring it all the time, but today's a little bit more special, my brother.
Good. Every day special as long as we're inhaling and exhaling and enjoying life, because we only live once,
That is so true. Live once, and you gotta try to enjoy every moment, right?
Yeah, so true. Yep. That's why I give hugs.
Mhm.
I say I love you, and it's very, very important. So that's why I make sure, before, if I leave this earth, at least someone won't say that he didn't say I love you, because I
Right.
always do it.
Charlie, I just got a text says we're not piped into Facebook.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
They restricted me with the live going live. I don't know. I tried to do a couple of things, verify my identification.
Oh wow, they restricted you. Wow.
So what I got to do is repost it after we're done with it. But if I don't know if you can send someone that message, just to say that we're only on LinkedIn and YouTube.
We're only on LinkedIn and YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on with Facebook support, but not helping me at all.
Yeah,
that's what happens when everything is based on electronic communication, and there's no way of talking one-on-one with a person. It's just nerve-wracking. But,
right. No, I understand that. Okay.
And I don't know what's going on other than, I send a picture of my ID. I do everything that I'm supposed to, but, still waiting. And it's been since we announced this a week ago. So.
Really?
Yeah. And,
oh, wow. Okay.
But they keep asking me for for my ID and my verification and stuff. So, and I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can take this link and post it on our various pages.
Yeah. So, but I'm actually going to be on. This will be on Buzzsprout too. BUZZ Sprout.
Buzzsprout. Okay.
Yep. And I'll definitely put that up. They only have an audio version of it, so just trying to switch up host.
Okay.
because yeah,
Okay.
right.
All
So
right.
I I didn't look for any videos like I did the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically wanted to, you know, see what you had to say. I know you have abundance of stuff that, and I know that I want to focus on that because we talked about, keeping the podcast at a 30 minute 30-minute time. So, I want to make sure that the information that you're giving me is out there to everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start with our update, and I'll start out with the stats.
Okay.
The stats of mental health. It's starting to be more awareness out there. Some of the challenges, while there's more awareness, is clearly not enough resources, and not only not enough resources, there's not enough infrastructure to handle the influx. It's kind of like I liken it to a runaway train, and with this runaway train, at some point it's got to stop, but along the way, it kind of picks up momentum along the way.
Hmm.
The momentum that's coming along really uh, is that it is growing in terms of mental challenges. You know what's interesting? We all are not perfect people. We all have our own flaws. Everyone does, right?
True.
The most important thing is clearly not to focus on your flaws, right? And then when you have these things that are out there when it comes to mental health, it is becoming while there is more awareness, it's not enough things being done to combat it. And so um, I always think about when it comes to mental health, where do we go from here? And I always think about the most vulnerable population is the children. I have talked to many people, and a lot of children, you're starting to have mental issues at a younger and younger ages, and things you wouldn't think about, especially when I was growing up, about children being admitted to for mental challenges as a teenager. I mean, you're starting to hear and see those things at a greater clip, and that's mainly due to this pandemic that we have and still have. It's not going anywhere, and for some people, it's a challenge. So
Yes.
it's kind of the updates. But one of the things I committed to was to how do you provide adequacy, adequate advocacy for people who are struggling with mental health, and what to say to the so-called mental health professionals, right?
Hmm.
And I did my research, and my research took me in a lot of different directions, but uh, the one direction it took me to was I asked the people who are professionals who've done it, people who have done it and have done it well. And so I really want to talk about this. I want to go over them step by step. Okay.
All right. Our friend Michael's saying good evening, and great to see you both. Great to see you, Michael.
Hey, Michael. It's always great to see you.
Yeah. All right. Go
Okay.
ahead. All right,
Okay.
Marvin.
So, and Chris is going to type this up for me.
Sure.
Okay. Um, First thing is when you're talking to the professional. Let's just start with whether it's a doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist. First thing you want to always ask the question is if you feel comfortable, is asking what have you done before? How have you helped people? That's incredibly important because you can always take a chance on someone new, but you want to have someone who's had a track record of helping people.
Hmm.
That's probably the first step you really, really want to do. And then what is the long and short term outlook? So you have someone that's helping and supporting, whether it's you or a family member, and you're really there to provide support for them. Um, what kind of things? What is that long and short term outlook? What does that look like? What does it feel like? And these are things that they should be able to answer. Okay. Um, and then not just with the outlook. What is the and short term? What can they expect over the long and short term? Because Here's the challenge that comes up with this, right? Mental health doesn't heal like if you sprained your foot. You put some gauze on it, bandage it up, and you keep moving, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
different with mental health. So these first couple basic things they should be able to answer. And then the goals, and that should be talked about with the caregiver and the person with the professional. They should be able to give goals, realistic goals. As a coach, I always say a SMART goal. Have you ever heard of SMART goal before, Charlie?
Yeah, it's usually a SMART goal is something that you can reach, something that's confident building, if I'm correct.
Uh, yes.
And
Um, but a SMART goal is it's an acronym.
okay, all right.
So
I think
specific.
I was wrong then.
That's okay. Smart is always smart, right? So
Mm-hmm.
specific, measurable, um, achievable, realistic, and timely.
Oh, it's still the same thing then.
No,
I
pretty
think.
much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Yep.
much, right? Depends on which angle you want to look at it,
True. I got some of the alphabet.
right? Okay. And I have several more. Um, so the active treatment plan, you should have an active treatment plan. Anybody that's going through mental challenges that requires a therapist or something else,
Mm-hmm.
whether a psychiatrist, psychologist, um, you would have an active treatment plan. And the active treatment plan needs to have some input and output. What I mean by input is basically um, how did you come with this treatment plan? How did you come up with this treatment plan? Right? And then what's the plan of attack for it?
Okay.
Because you know how things are, right? When you write them down on paper, what happens then? Right? You got to take that paper and do something with it.
Mm-hmm. And chances are the paper gets lost,
Right.
misplaced, something like that.
Right. Okay. I have more. Um, and then the secondary meetings and conference. Because once you get all this stuff is great, walk out the door, everybody's seeming like you're making progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
When is the follow up going to be? And this is incredibly, incredibly important. Just about everything else I talked about, the follow up meeting is everything. I've seen situations where they have the most elaborate active treatment plan and it place because not enough support there. There's no follow up. A lot of times the professionals don't always follow up. And so that puts a higher burden on the individual because
So the
you really,
follow up,
oh, go ahead.
in my opinion, the follow up should be immediately because mental states change within seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing. This is you can't have forward progress without the follow up.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you're not the expert, right? So you're asking these questions and all that, and so you're like, okay. And then a lot of times what happens next? Kind of like when you go to a doctor and the doctor may spend 10 minutes with you and you got your next follow up appointment, but what happens in between that time, right? How are things followed up? How are things being reinforced? Um, and this should be something where it should be a question, not just from the caregiver or the patient. There should be there should be follow up with the professionals.
Yes.
How are we going to do this? What's it looking like? What's the progress, etc. I've seen this over and over again.
Well, I think that it's real important. I mean, what about? I mean, we talked about it just in the beginning about advocates, and not everyone has an advocate,
Hmm.
so sometimes that would be the most essential thing that someone has is a good advocate, whether it's a personal one or a clinician or something. We gotta. There's sometimes it's just not enough people to be advocates for everyone.
And that can be challenging, um, especially with certain communities where you know it's there, but you want to ignore it enough till it comes knocking on your front door.
Yeah,
Okay, let's just be honest about it.
true.
So a lot of times we may be advocates, but it's somebody that was really, really close to us, right? Because a lot of times when it comes to mental health, we want to stick it in a closet somewhere. But what happens over time when that closet starts to overflow? So it really, and I'll be the first one to say it's not easy to do. Some
No, it
people
isn't.
have given all they can, right? So at that point, you can always think about secondary advocates to help people out. But at some point, you really want to be thinking, just like I was saying with the active treatment plan, how has this person become very codependent to dependent on themselves? And really, an active treatment plan should really get someone there because you can't. It's very difficult sometimes to be able to be an advocate for years and years and years on out without having the necessary progress. So that's why it's important to have people to understand. So how long are you in this for the long haul? Because it's everything, Charlie. This is because, like I said, people who are advocates or caregivers, they get burnt out over time. It's just a
Yes,
fact. And sometimes they get more ill than the person they're helping, right? So, and that's always a tough part. And that's why I said my last podcast, just to make sure that you have certain things in place where you can properly advocate for someone.
true. It's called burnt out, burnout. We all get burned out. On a lot of things, and this is one area that people will get burnt out because when you're trying to find a solution for someone, but it most of these cases are kind of traumatic.
Hmm.
They have a negative vibe, and negative vibes burn your energy, causing burnout. So
Hmm.
we gotta when they're constantly getting this type of situation, it just burns them out. But let me just get to this question. Georgia McCullen says, "Hello, I met your wife Marvin in Double Down
Hmm.
DMs. Glad to join y'all. We
I,
appreciate your company.
thank you,
Appreciate,
Georgia. I appreciate you.
yeah, it's a great name, Georgia, isn't it?"
Sure is. Yeah, sure is.
Amy McAllister, thank you for making a difference by talking about mental health and treatment plans. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you for being amazing, what you are. And thank you to my wife for joining as well and typing down some of the things we talked about. I do want to dive a little bit more into advocacy.
Sure.
Um, so advocacy, what makes it so critically important is that um, you will probably have to, and I want to kind of take a couple steps back because I talked about this probably in our first and second podcast. If you can, if possible, just get a simple power of attorney. You can draft up something, you can go to a paralegal,
Hmm.
and they can draft up something, get it notarized. That's simple. And I've had to use this many times because sometimes people don't want to talk to me, and I'm like, I have power of attorney. You have to talk to me. And it's kind of the game, and it makes me concerned sometimes because I think about the patients that need the support. If you're not in your right mind, how are you going to ask these doctors questions? They just give you what they want to give you. And what if they're not at their best? And
True.
this is the thing I've always said was that you have to hold the people in the medical field accountable. We all get to be held accountable, right? We're adults. You have to be held accountable and ask the questions and follow, but make sure they really do their job.
Hmm.
That to me, it's not that complicated. It sounds easy, but very difficult.
True.
Incredibly difficult because a lot of times doctors and therapists, they don't want to be questioned.
Mhm.
Whenever I take on someone as a client, I always open it up for questions because I want people to, who have you helped? How have you helped them? Tell me what you've done.
Mhm.
We're always told this, right? You should be able to ask whoever's claiming to be the expert. You got to be able to ask them questions, and they have to answer them. That's simple because I know what they do, and trust me, when I was compiling this list, Charlie, I talked to some experts, and they're telling me this is what you asked them. This isn't my list. This is a list that I went to the experts to compile and provide to you all because we all need it. And like I said, Charlie, from the beginning when we started today, our job is to go out there and to serve the masses. We have an obligation, Charlie. That's what I texted you yesterday. We have an obligation to get out and help people because this is where you take the will part and apply it with action. Because a lot of people are always talking about, well, mental health sucks and all that, and they see it, but it's one of these things when it shows up on your doorstep you may not have a choice, but you're going to have to answer that damn door.
Yeah. So true. So true. And I what I like about this is this I feel every week that we're doing this, it gets better and better.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing is the names get different and different. There's more names, there's different names. So we're reaching out to other people, another population, which
Hmm.
is good. And I appreciate that. I like that. And that's what we're trying to do. You know, between you and I and your wife, there's a lot of people amongst us, and there was a lot of loss amongst us
Hmm.
for this particular reason. So, um,
Charlie, there's a cycle of grief, right? And so we have to go through a certain period of grief when it happens, right? And this is what happened, especially with my wife and myself. When we had some unfortunate, um, I say mental health things that went on, and people committing suicides, right? It's
hmm
a period of grief you go through that, but at some point, collectively, you got to start thinking about, well, how do I help and support that this doesn't happen again, right? And also provide the help and resources that people need. You know, we all went through this pandemic or however we were feeling before, right? And we all have been affected by this. And I remember I was talking to an expert today, and they just talked about bringing awareness that sometimes we all don't feel our best.
yes,
And sometimes it's just important just to have an ear and an eye and listen to where people are at. When I went away on this trip this weekend, I had something that was really really bothering me, and it really activated a block in me, and I was carrying it. And some people were picking up on it, right? And that was the first day, but the second day it was like, man, it was just it by people seeing it and being aware of it, they brought it to my attention because sometimes we
hmm
really don't know, Charlie. And
yeah,
this is the one thing I'm saying. And the theme should probably be today about advocacy. Advocacy isn't always about supporting people who are going through issues. Sometimes advocacy is being aware that someone around you is not feeling their best. That they may not know, but you know, and you're just put your arm around them and you're being very heartfelt with them and you're giving them a piece of you for that time being, right? So you're helping to refill their bucket because their bucket is damn near empty, right? And that's
yeah,
something we can do collectively. We don't and this doesn't require the medical field. This requires us. And for us to really move the needle with this mental thing, it's going to take a collective effort. We can't always
good.
expect somebody to come down and save us. We're not going to be expecting where you're just going to automatically increase psychiatrists and psychologists by 50, 60% overnight. It's not going to happen, Charlie.
Good, good points. Good points. Excellent. I love it. Yeah, on point, man. Yeah, on point. Like always, though, right?
I told you, man, I was bringing a certain level of energy today, man. I told you, it's like that block was open up, and I give credit to my wife, and met this amazing couple, the McAllisters, and they're amazing people, Amy and Chad, and I like to give them a lot of credit for just the amount of love that we felt over the weekend. It was really a recharging place for me, and
Hmm.
that's something I would offer to anybody. Get yourself recharged sometimes. I don't care what it is. And it's one of the things I teach as a coach, Charlie. But you know what? Sometimes, as a coach or a leader who tries to support people, you have to take that same advice yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, uh, the how. Let me ask you this question. I want to see how this affects you
Mhm,
and your mental health
mhm,
when you see billions and billions of dollars
mhm,
going elsewhere.
mhm.
It's not to help people, but you're asking for help and you only need a few $100. And it's
Right.
like pulling teeth to get it. You help out a lot, with the homeless.
Mhm,
And that's been bothering me all this week, with different things. And I've been seeing billions of dollars going everywhere in all kinds of directions.
mhm,
And the homeless are still homeless, and it just what have you been telling us all these years? The first thing they say is financially they don't have it. They can't do it. They can't
mhm.
provide it. And I'm like, you know, I want to say BS, I want to say BS, it's like, yeah, you do have it. This is one of the most resourceful countries in the world. Of course you have it. But
Right.
how does that affect you?
You know, I'm like anybody else. Of course, it bothers me at times, right? Until I start to really just take a step back and ponder it. And I start to ponder that everything we live in a world, and our conscious level at times is of duality, right?
Hmm.
So on one hand, while it seems like it's not enough, right? On the
Yep.
other hand, it's like they've always created things out of thin air, right? Um, I look at Amazon for example. He was sitting on a table, and the table looked like it was 100 years old, and he had wires going everywhere, and then he put it to almost $1 trillion business, right? So you ask the
Hmm.
question, where did that money come from?
Yeah.
So I really think that, so when you look at it from that perspective, I look at, we have to continue to bring a lot of creativity and awareness around it. I mean, you think about it. They hold the Oscars and Grammys around positive things that people did, or films that people did to entertain. But they're not having big forums like that when it comes to the ills of society, not unless you want to streamline that and you want to show like what happens in Ukraine. But they don't even talk about the local stuff, right? And so I think people have to continue to bring more awareness to it, like what we're doing today. And so many other people are doing that. So I think it's kind of one of these things where the more awareness you bring to it, and you live by it, right? And we looked at, if we look at ourselves as, we got to solve this problem,
Hmm.
right? We collectively. It's not one singular person or that's going to solve all these problems, man. It's like bringing awareness. So sometimes a different spin on it, right? I
True.
think our spin is to provide help, not to get on here and talk about how bad society is, and how we got all these problems in society. Our mindset since day one is like, okay, we're going to put forward solutions. We're going to come on this podcast every 2 weeks and provide something to somebody. Perhaps we're planting seeds in others, and perhaps we're getting other people to plant seeds and bring awareness to it. I saw someone that she was, I forget who she was. I think my wife showed it to me. This lady was doing a run or something, just trying to bring awareness to mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hallelujah. You know what I'm saying? Now, how many people can she actually touch, right?
Yes.
And so when I think about this, I'm like, wow, I got some work to do. And that's why, Charlie, I don't know if we talked about it, like from our nonprofit from here to there, we're going to open a resource center this year by any
Nice.
means necessary. We're going to get this thing done,
Beautiful.
right? So last year, we went about donating food and clothing. We did other initiatives as well. I mean, we donated over a ton of food, probably about at least half that amount in clothes, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a big impact to help those out there, right?
Yeah. So true.
So I'm thinking about continuing to do that, right? And being in that cycle of creativity, that cycle of creating something that's even bigger than what we think about, right? So I'm thinking
Yes.
about this moonshot thing to keep doing this, bring awareness. We're gonna keep finding people. Remember time I told you it's like we start out with this, we're going to keep finding people, and people are going to want to support and help, right? And just plant a seed with them, and somebody may go off and start something big as well, right?
True.
So our resource center is a must this year. Don't ask me 100% how I'm going to do it. I'm telling you right now, it has to be done. Somebody told me recently I need to be able to get these things done because my wife and I, there are people that need us. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I like to do. This is what my wife likes to do. We like to do this. We don't like to go out here and um, do other things that may float other people's boats. This is what I like to do. I like to talk about it. I like to support people. I like to give my gifts that were given to me to go and give to other people. And I see other people, man. It inspires me.
And you guys are good at it, and so that's why you got to continue to do it, especially when you're good at it. Or you have
Yeah.
a caring way about it. That's the best quality anyone can have is that you care, you got empathy. It's definitely something that's needed out there, and I'm glad you're doing it. Georgia has a question for you. Wonder
Yes.
if you want me to read it?
Uh, I can see it.
All right.
Yeah, we're a mission led brand about abuse, homeless population, and also mental health. Um, navigate through cycle of abuse. Um, first, I think the knowing the signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think there's 7 cycles of abuse. I think knowing the signs. Um, I will say this about knowing the signs of abuse. They're prevalent. Sometimes they are seen, sometimes they're unseen. It could be somebody's approach, it could be their perspective. It could feel like it can even feel like something where you think about when you were growing up and up to the age of 17 and you had a bunch of rules and restrictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, when I think about signs of abuse for one person or another, you feel kind of restricted in what you do. And I would always say this, and I am not a marriage or I'm not a marriage therapist, but when you're with somebody, it should always feel free. Should feel like, hey, I get to be myself. And you know, I'm going to add this in here, and I think this is very important, right? I remember when I first met my lovely wife, the one thing I talked about was her being lovable, and she's been very, very lovable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this whole expectation that, and I'm gonna give it from a side from a man to a woman. I think this whole thing about there's all these supposed tos would get people in trouble. And honestly, this is where I see a lot of abuse come up when these supposed to you don't meet them.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to meet any expectation all the time. I don't care if it's at work, whether it's home, other friends, etc. And the problem is that you live and die by these supposed tos. And this is what
well,
happened.
and you have your own individual expectations you may not be able to meet too. So,
Right. So, yeah. So I think navigating through that is just how do you feel with inside any relationship you're with? Do you feel like it's a chore, or do you feel like it's something that I'm free and I'm growing within? That's the that's the one thing outside of seeing the signs of abuse. And you know what? Here's a reality my mom once told me. Sometimes people in your life for a season don't hold on to something that doesn't make you feel that you need to be there.
hmm
I'm going to end this note with this, Charlie, on that about abuse. I saw an article today. They said the reason why, and whether whatever you believe, right? I'm not going to get into this, but what Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, they talked about his behavior the way it was because he doesn't. He felt the love feels one sided,
hmm
right? My opinion, that's abuse. You should feel
yeah,
love on both sides, man.
true.
You feel like you got to hold this thing up and not, and it's probably run its course.
Yeah, and and if he's not getting it from wherever, I know he can get it elsewhere. So if love is what you want, and if it's not coming from that certain person, then
Hmm.
you got to move on. You got to move on. Marvin, we do have someone trying to get into the podcast. So Sonia
Okay.
Rodriguez, we're gonna add her to the stream. And
Oh,
Michael's comment says reviewing information from the administrative side, following Marvin's point, the vast employment opportunities identify the direct need in this community.
yes. Thank you,
Yeah,
Michael. That
yeah,
is.
true. All right, let's see. Sonia, you there?
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. I was just listening. I didn't mean to come on. Hello,
Oh,
Marvin.
Hey, how you doing, my
okay.
friend?
All
I
right.
All
was just
right.
listening. Hello, I'm doing great.
Okay.
It's always great to hear from you.
Yeah,
Really
you
appreciate you.
keep listening, and I appreciate it. So, uh,
Thank you so much.
Thank
all
you.
right. Thank you. That's great.
Sonia, I've known her for a while. I know some incredible people, man. I feel very, very fortunate. I'm looking at the comments too. You got from Amy, beautiful journey. God bless. Yeah. Eh, you know, I will tell you this, which is interesting. This trip verified this past trip, right? Sometimes when you do the work to kind of get yourself at a certain point and the effort there, people show up in your lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think meeting her and her wonderful husband was a great example of that.
True. And
Um,
it's good, because it's going to lead to something better, and beautiful. It's only going to build your relationship, because it seems like I don't know. First impressions mean a lot to me, and I'm usually right about people, when
mhm,
it comes to the impression. And I think you and your wife are the same type of person. You can feel someone immediately and know where they're at, and
mhm.
so
Mm.
good luck with that friendship.
I have to tell you this though, with my
Hmm
wife, and you mentioned my wife real quick. She posted on here. Um, my husband and I having the expedition supposed to. Um, you lived through this for 10 years, and thank you, George. I'm glad I was able to answer your question, and please continue to ask away. Um, my wife is definitely the better half, so I had to, and
I wait a minute. I didn't vote on that, man.
she she's definitely better. You know what the funny thing, man?
hmm
Women are just so powerful that I think sometimes it's our job as a man just to constantly remind them of that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a firm believer. This world would be a better place if women were back at that rightful place because you know as much things as guys can do, women in a lot of ways can do them a little bit better. And that may be our own separate, different podcasts and all. But I want to answer this question right here. Um, we don't speak on this in our communities of color or not? Oh, absolutely not. But you know what? I'm going to take this real quick, Charlie, and I'd love to get your thing to chime into here.
Sure.
I would say from a awareness and the ability to move in that direction, community of colors is probably about 50 years behind. And it's that stigma thing. We don't want to talk about stuff. Um, and it, it, we're always taught, gotta be strong, gotta be strong, gotta be strong. And that strong, anything that's strong can be broken.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of not talking about us, or we get ridiculed, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about this whole thing, we don't we get ridiculed, or we use this crazy word far too often in communities of color. And we don't bring awareness to this. We just don't. And I don't know, and it's almost like a part of the empathy and compassion is kind of shut off because we're just like, okay, let's just throw this damn thing in the closet for now. Somebody else is going to deal with it. And if it's too much, I'm going to put them out in the streets, right? This is our mentality. And I gotta say this is like, um, you remember Melinda, right? Melinda Pereira.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know her? Like,
Yes.
well, okay. She's somebody that spoke her mind. And this person's like my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And she was always telling me these things that people got to talk about him. I mean, she was my first client as a coach, and she would challenge me. She was first one to tell me, "Hey, listen, I've been in therapy all those years, and they couldn't do nothing with me." A year later, she was like, "Wow." And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying that to say what my abilities are. I'm saying that because we have this hard outer shell when it comes to this whole mental health thing. We gotta talk. And you know what?
Yes.
We gotta go find the people. You sent something, I sent something out to all the Cape Verdean groups, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
there were thousands of people. How many of them showed up today?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in my honor to her, I'm going to be brutally honest with anybody when the time is right.
Yeah. You should. The I mean, we interact with thousands of people on a daily basis just through our pages,
Hmm.
and and sometimes it's like, come on, people, we're here. Let's talk about it. Let's do this. And it actually it gets nerve wracking. It gets
Hmm.
discouraging. Well, not discouraging because I'm kind of stubborn in my ways. If I gotta do it by myself, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
And
No, I
and
get that.
so the so I just hope that they come out. They get, we know they need it. You talked about that perception. You got to see if you see something. See someone maybe going through some difficult things. And we're seeing it. We know it's there. We know it, and then we're just trying to reach out and help. Because sometimes, just like with Melinda, she come to your doorstep, you're talking to her, and look, you were the person that helped her out. And ever since that time, I mean, you can attest to it, she's probably become a better person almost, uh, you know 360, just after all that. So you know I don't know, preaching to the choir right now. So
Yeah. And, but at the same time, while we know the challenges, right?
hmm
My mind drifts to the solutions, right? And the solution is to keep talking about it, keep finding the people. Sometimes you got to go get them. You know what I'm saying? Because as we could always do, we could sit here and talk about the problem. The problem doesn't mean anything. It's
hmm
about continue to be solutions driven about how we're going to help and support people. And you know what, Charlie? We could be down the road. We can be on a podcast 100,000 viewers, 1 million viewers.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? because it's the momentum and things grow from that. So yeah, Charlie, that's what I think about. Instead of me thinking about, okay, well, I know people are stubborn as hell. They don't want to really do much, and people sometimes are lazy when it comes because they think it won't come to their doorstep, right? And we've all been there, Charlie. We think
Mm-hmm.
that this is somebody else's problem. This is what someone else goes through. When you go through stuff, your lens changes a little bit, where you're like, okay, now I have a level of awareness. Now I'm bringing everything I had with me, my intuition, everything with this, right? Now it's time to go take action to get some things done. And we'll keep doing this. I've got some other plans. Like I said, get this resource center going, with our nonprofit and get this because I know what my passion is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what your passion is, Charlie. You know what you do with things that and whenever I could sit on this thing with you and talk for 8-9 hours straight. I just it like fills my bucket. It gets me jazzed. It gets me like, damn, more to go help and support people, right?
True.
So that's what this is about, brother.
Georgia mentions, I'm a white woman. My husband's cousins are black. There is a significant difference in our communities with the therapy voice, but I am an ally and will continue to help your community. God bless you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you,
Thank,
Georgia.
thank you, Georgia. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like powerful. And you know what? This is a problem where all need to come together.
Yeah, we
Everybody get on board.
gotta be humanitarians, and just
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you, Georgia.
eh,
That
yeah,
really that fills my bucket. Truly.
yeah. Amy said she stands with Georgia.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, Double Down says yes, a level of awareness. And Georgia says, Amy, I could tell you are a beautiful person. Well, Georgia, you are too. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Beautiful people. That interior spark is what gets it going, That interior spark.
true. If the could you, I mean, there's amazing examples of unity. Um, and if when this country comes unified to accomplish every single thing, um, that would be amazing. I mean, you know, I'm more proud of this country than not being proud of it. But just think of unifying to come over, to get over things like mental illness. If we all stay unified and to accomplish the best for the next person, things will happen. Things will happen. It won't be a stigma anymore. It will be a norm. It will be a norm to reach out to people and and then try to fix it. That would be a normal situation. It should be a normal situation, a normal behavior from all of us. Um,
Yeah, I mean, our creed has to be about really one for all because, they really do a good job of trying to divide us, and a lot of people have fallen for the hokey doke, right? And
mhm,
I think that it's going to have to keep breaking down those barriers because when you start to think about this is the prevailing theme, right? And but you rarely have these examples of how much we all come together and do things, right? Put
true.
that put that humanity first, right? When I think about it, Charlie, I think about the work I've seen people do transcends people's race, etc. Right? Think
Hmm.
about the work that you've done. Think about the work that my wife and I have done in the community. Right? It's a damn thing to do about race.
Hmm.
Even though it does bring awareness, of like, how the hell do you have so many people of color on the streets, right? We talked a little bit about that earlier, right? The
True.
stigma around it that we don't really want to deal with. And so I think there needs to be some accountability there as well when you start to look at it. Um, I am so fortunate to be able to have the strength and wherewithal to be able to help people out. And so, I feel guided in that direction. And I have a lot of great people who support me and support this. Um, so, yeah, that's kind of where it's at, Charlie.
True. The some great comments here. We're doing some marvelous podcast tonight, and I really appreciate everyone here with us. Um, and as always, without mentioning it, I appreciate Marvin Speller, Kristen Speller, Double Down Cosmetics. Really appreciate everything that you're doing, and I'm gonna pray for that resource center to come relatively quickly because we do need it.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it is, I'll give you an example of resource center, if I have a couple minutes, Charlie.
Sure, of course. Yep.
So I think about the resource center. Let's go back to what we were doing in terms of helping victims who've gone through abuse. We had this thing called Glam Up, the Glam Up, and this Glam Up was all about really bringing women in, um, make them feel beautiful, more
Hmm.
so than they walked in that door. So we would bring them into our home. Um, my wife would get her and her crew, and they would go to work. And my wife's fantastic at making people feel wonderful. And out there cooking for them. I may even say a couple of things, but the whole welcoming vibe is what we brought into that. We also did it on a grander scale at a transitional home. This transitional home, we went in there and we brought several makeup artists with us. Our daughter came out to support, and we just made these women feel beautiful. Um, with that, so that's one of our programs. Another thing is the Man Up program. Man Up program, I went into um, the same type of situation, but this is for the men in the transitional home, and really giving them 2.5 hours laser sharp coaching.
Hmm.
So just really helping them. And you know what one guy said to me? He said, I can't remember the last time someone told me that they believe in me. That simple word, Charlie.
Hmm.
So that we also have a teen up program. So there's a lot of programs that we have with from here to there, and that's why we want to have those housed and contained into the resource center. And probably should have talked more about it before, but we'll talk about that more at the end every time we do it. But this is an opportunity. Plus, pandemic is lessening, so we could be traveling city to city to bring out products and just make people feel great about themselves. And a lot of times that's a form of therapy, Charlie. When you start to feel great about certain things, you think about it. Um, Taking a child to an amusement park, they just feel great. Nothing else. That doesn't take away the problems you have in life, right? If you can chip away that 24 hours of bad that you have, and you can take an hour here, an hour there, and you're feeling a whole lot better. So you take 24 hours, you get your sleep, and next thing you know, your time limited of bad things will start to minimize, right?
Hmm.
And that's a form of therapy, right? So there's traditional ways, there's untraditional ways in order to move the needle with people.
Awesome. Yeah, amazing dude, man. Thank you.
Thank you. It takes one to know one, sir.
That's it, brother. The comments are nice, and I appreciate this. I really do.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody joining in. We had a very vibrant amount of people in here, and they were just bringing the love. And thank you all. You inspired me all the way down. We got Cam Science, we got Double Down, my wife. We got Georgia. We got Amy. We got Michael.
Hmm.
Um, we got Sonia joining in, and you being the most gracious host, Charlie. You're amazing. I love you, brother.
Thank you. Love you too.
We're gonna keep this thing moving, and it's gonna get bigger, 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 bigger.
That's right. Um, Cam, thank you. And you're welcome. I really, really appreciate everyone on here. This is definitely nice. Great roll call on this comment section. I really, really appreciate it. And feel free to like and subscribe to the Really Charlie uh, YouTube channel. And we're going to do this every 2 weeks. You have any recommendations, you have things that you want to mention or bring across to myself and Coach, let us know, and we'll bring it up, and testimony is good. I want testimony. He wants testimony. We definitely need that on board with this podcast and making, look at your wife in the background. Oh, you missed it. You see the TV in the back. It's all the guests, the previous guests, that
Oh,
we had
okay.
on
I
it.
didn't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm talking about.
yeah. So I got
Okay.
a few more to add. So thank you for subscribing to the Really Charlie channel and on YouTube, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna try to do this on Facebook soon once they lift these restrictions. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, we can talk offline, Charlie.
Yeah.
I'm sure my wife probably has a solution for that.
Yeah. All right. I'm not wearing no lipstick. So, and you want to conclude with anything, Coach? You can.
No, I just love you all, the ones who join in. I also have love and appreciation for all those we haven't reached yet, and we will. And I have I just put my heart out to everybody and hope everybody's feeling their best and doing things to make themselves feel good every day.
True. And this is nice. Yeah, YouTube is a nice platform. I'm loving it. I really do. And let's see. All right. Well, feel free to come back on. I will have another podcast at 9:00 with another guest, Roberta Nadelia from Chicago, born and raised in South Africa, part of the Zulu nation, the Zulu culture. She has a lot of intellect, and she's definitely going to be on after this podcast. Give it an hour or so, and I can't wait. Can't wait to talk to her and share some stories with her.
Great.
Well, Marvin, you know our routine. Let me know when the next date is, and then we'll get it out to everyone, and
okay. You'll send a link for this tonight.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna download it on. I'm gonna download it just as soon as we get off, and then I'm gonna share it to Facebook.
Okay.
And I'll tag you in it so you have it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right, family. Okay.
All right. Thank you. God bless. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all. And I'm going to end with my intro song here from Lionel Walker from the Communal Space. And feel free to tune in at 9:00. We'll have another episode of the Really Charlie podcast. Take care, everyone. God bless. Stay blessed.
It's the Really Charlie podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass.